Good morning, Anchor fam. My name is Alex, lead pastor here at Anchor Church. I want to welcome you to Anchor at Home. Hope you all had a great Christmas, and so excited to be with you live online. I hope you've got your favorite cup of coffee, maybe your favorite cereal, whatever. Hope you're enjoying your time with family. But it's great to have you join us live online today. And I'd like to say hello to anybody. Maybe you're watching for the first time, and welcome to Anchor Church. Maybe this is a little different. You're like, wow, you guys aren't meeting in person today. No, the last Sunday of every year, we meet at home. So you can enjoy church in your PJs, church with your favorite cup of coffee, sitting on your couch. Maybe you're laying in bed. Maybe you're driving today. It doesn't matter. Wherever you find yourself, welcome. Hope you take the time to engage. If you haven't already, drop a comment. Let us know you're joining us live today. Share what you're feeling. Share what you're thinking. How was your Christmas? Was it just a fantastic time? Maybe it was a struggle, man. We want to be here, do community with you, do life with you, share your comments throughout this entire time. This is how we do life together online. We engage. We're not going to be able to meet in person, so we're not going to be able to interact, but we can engage and do community and do life together through comments. You may be like, oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable. Well, maybe drop a private message if you're not ready to drop a comment, but let us know. If you're joining us live, shoot us a message or drop a comment, and that way we can connect with you. And now I know this Christmas has been different, like maybe any before in the history. Everything in 2020 has been different. And it's just kind of been a constant change, and been a lot of difference, but as a lot of you know, if you've been around Anchor for any length of time, Brooke and I, over these last probably 2 years, have really been trying to take our, really take health into our focus. And it's been a long journey, and when all of the coronavirus hit, we stopped working out. We were, wanted to take time and just let things, whatever that looked like, but it's been a change because we walked away from that. But it's also been a change for our kids, having 3 kids who have been in school, and they not having school and not having all these things, and not having athletics. Where for those of you who've been around our family, we're really involved in youth sports, and all of our kids love basketball, and they all play. And then Easton and Bentley play baseball and softball, and just all these things. And we get through the summer, and Aiden decides he wants to run cross country. Any cross country runners joining us live today? If you are, man, drop a comment, drop a heart. I'm not that. I know I've said it before. I make a joke. I have the runner's physique. I just look like I run long distances. It's just so terrible. And maybe you're one of those, like, you hear of a 5K that's happening, and it's like, oh, there's a good cause, and I'm just going to run, and I'm going to do that, and there's no questions about it, that you love to run, and maybe you just love to run for a good cause. Maybe you just like raising money for a good cause, but you love to run. Well, running's a struggle for me. And, Brooke and I have been consistently going to the gym. We've gotten, over these last few months, been getting back into the gym. And because, like I said, we'd stopped for COVID. And, maybe you're sitting home like, yeah, man, I'm so, way to go. You're back in the gym. Things are going well. Now I wish I had the determination of those that can go like 5, 6, 7 days a week. I wish I had that in me, just to be able to just get up in the morning and go to and I'll get there. Like, eventually I'll get there. The determination of cross-country runners, the people who run long distances, and you maybe watch them if you live in Lawrence, and you watch them. We live just off Clinton Parkway, and you see them running to and from it's just crazy, the hills they run, and I don't have that determination yet. Now, what drove me to get back into the gym was watching my son, Aiden, run cross-country this year. Never done it before, right? To my knowledge, I don't know anybody in my family who's ever ran competitively. Now, truthfully, and running competitively, like, inside of me, that's almost like a weird statement to make, like running and competitive, like putting that together. And it was just interesting. And to see that, when Brooke and I showed up to his first cross-country meet, we didn't know what to expect. We'd never been there. We kind of were like, the weird mom and dads that were just wandering around, didn't know if we could be where we're supposed to be. But over the course of several weeks that he was practicing, and to see Aiden practice and progress, and the determination to do his best every time he lined up at the meet. Now, Aiden and I have very similar body builds. We're both really thick. We're both stronger than we really give ourselves credit for. Now, I'll give you his determination to do well. Like, I would have never thought, looking at Aiden, it would be like, yeah, I'm going to run cross country. That was never that was more something you thought Easton would do. I'm just being honest, and I'm not telling you anything Aiden and I haven't talked about before. But we just have very similar body builds. But it was awesome to watch my son take on this new task of like, okay, I want to do this. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of difference between Aiden and I, though. And at the end of middle school age, because Aiden is now getting ready to be starting his last semester of middle school, and it's just, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that. But Aiden has had to really work hard to achieve his accomplishments. I, however, grew up in a really small town where I was always the biggest kid, and therefore just about anything that I had or achieved athletically, most of it was just handed to me because I was the biggest. And one of the most, there was a smaller pool of athletes to pull from, where Aiden has to legitimately, he's a part of the most, what I would say the most athletic middle school in town. So there's always a bigger pool of athletes. Then you have to kind of stand out amongst those. And Aiden's always been around kids who were bigger, more athletic, faster, which always means he had to work a lot harder to achieve similar results that I did. Now, it was awesome to see this happen, because at his last cross-country meet, there were 3 races this year. It was awesome that they got to run 3. And at his last meet, here was a kid that just a few months earlier had no desire to do this, and had no desire, like it was just, he decided, I wanted to work hard. And here's my son, like we're watching, and he comes out of the gate, and he's going full bore, leading for almost half the race. And in my book, truthfully, even being able to lead at any level, that's quite an accomplishment. He came out of the gate strong. He looked poised to position himself for a strong showing, and you could see the determination on his face. You could just see it. You know what I'm saying? You see when you watch the Olympics and you see the Olympians, and now you know how hard they had to work to get there, and you just see there's a difference in their countenance. There's a difference in their eyes. There is a determination that they have. And as a dad, I found myself in an interesting position. Here's a sport that I knew nothing about. I don't know strategy behind cross-country meets. Is this a team event, or is this an individual event? What is it? I found myself for the first time really in Aiden's life in his athletics. I literally just could be dad, because there was no real advice I could give him. There was no coaching that I could do. And it was an incredibly awesome place to be. I could encourage and just cheer him on. I don't know proper running technique. I mean, I run on the treadmill at Planet Fitness, and I probably look like I'm making a fool out of myself. I mean, I don't know what technique looks like. But what I knew is my son was trying something new and giving it his all, going full. I mean, he was doing everything he can, doing the absolute best. And I think that paints a picture of how we should end 2020 and approach 2021. Let's go to the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verses 23 and 24, where Paul writes to the church of Colossae. He says this: work willingly at whatever you do. I mean, we could push the pause button right there. Work willingly at whatever you do. Every task you put your mind to, everything you commit to, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you are working for the Lord rather than people. I mean, do you get the significance of that? Work willingly at whatever I do, not for people, but for Christ. Verse 24, remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you're serving is Christ. So here's the Apostle Paul helping the Christians at Colossae, saying in this passage of Scripture, Paul is addressing the home life and what it should look like. 2020 has been unique because there's been a lot of us who spend a lot of times at home that we're not used to. And one of the things that we had to really understand as mom and dads is that the culture I create at home is the culture I'm going to practice out in public. What I allow to take place in my home is what my kids are going to replicate in public. What I allow myself, what I choose to watch, what I choose to take in, the culture I create, the culture I cultivate at home is the culture and the behaviors that I'm going to practice in public. And Paul is simply saying this: you need to work willingly. Now, I love the Amplified Bible, and its version says this: whatever we do, work from the soul. I mean, that's so good. Work from the soul. Whatever your task, whatever your exercise, whether you're the boss and you give tasks, or whether you're the employee and you receive tasks, or whether you're at home and recently retired and things are just going, you have a new boss around, and whatever your task is, moms and dads, and whatever our task is, kids, whatever our task, whatever exercise, do it as if we were doing it for the Lord. Whatever my day brings, I do it from the soul. Why? Why should I do it from the soul? Like, it's in me, it's convicting. I work hard, I work willingly, I work diligently. It's because the master I am serving is Jesus Christ. When I lace up my tennis shoes to go work out, when I sit down in my office chair on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. and it's just like, oh, it's Monday. When I grab the pencil and start to write notes, or maybe you're now taking notes on an iPad like most students, and maybe it's when I'm turning the wrenches on the vehicle that I'm working on. Whatever my task, whatever I do it for the Lord, which means simply we have to do it and we need to do it well. Even in a year like 2020, how I finish is more important than how I start. Now, 2020 has been a tough year. I think that can kind of go without saying. It's been a year of unknowns. It's been a year, we've heard a lot of people say, well, we're building the plane while flying it. And it seems like every entity that's trying to not build the plane while flying it, those are the entities that are struggling. And they're struggling staying on the same heading. We've all been building a plane as we've been flying it this year. But I know there's a lot of people that you may be online today, and you would consider 2020 to be an incredibly disastrous year for you. Now, a recent report said that nearly 50% of all people worldwide know someone who has either been sick or hospitalized from COVID-19. So half. Now, this year's been, this is for some people been a year you would just like to forget. And your attitude as you sit at home, and maybe Christmas wasn't everything you expected it to be. Maybe you didn't get to spend time with the family like you wanted, and you're just this is not ending. This year is not ending the way when you finished 2019 you thought 2020 would end. Maybe, and your attitude is very simply this: let's just get this year over with. And maybe that's you. I'm going to ask you in a moment of honesty and vulnerability, if that's your mentality, if that's your priority right now, I'm going to ask, drop a comment. And why is that? And you're going to be like, well, I don't know, Pastor Alex. I don't think I can really drop that. I can't really share. This is how we do life together. When we go through struggles, we walk through those struggles. We walk through the fire together. And if you're at the point, you just need to get this year over with because it's been that disastrous. We want to be there and walk this journey out with you. Maybe you're wanting to rush to the finish line. If I just get to the end of the year and get it over with already, maybe that's my priority. If we can just, I just want the next few days to just go, and I want it to fly. But I have a question for you as you're processing all of this. Has rushing things ever really turned out beneficial for you? You know what I mean? Has rushing things ever really been, in the long run, been positive? In my experience, rushing things never ends well. Once you think back to middle school and high school. And did you ever rush through a test? You know what I'm talking about? It's like I get in and you think you've nailed it, but really inside you're like, oh, I just rushed through that. And you walk out of the classroom full of anxiety and anxiousness and just an unease. You weren't at peace. You were just, oh, I don't know if I did my best. What about rushing into relationships? You know what I'm talking? I mean, come on. You know what I'm talking about. You rush into a relationship, and it's like you think you found the person you're going to marry, and you're only like 10 years old, and you rush in, or you're in high school, and it's like you rush into things, and then you get in, and it's like, ooh, that didn't go how I planned. That person really, we don't jive. I know that when I was a kid, I used to rush through housework. It's like if I could just get it done, and if it wasn't done to my mom's standards, then she would never ask me to do it again. And so my work was always subpar and it was mediocre. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if I just do mediocre, then nobody will really ask me to do anything. When we rush, we get really poor grades and we make mistakes. And we are forced to compromise excellence. I once heard that excellence is not a skill, it's an attitude. And when we rush to get to the end of anything, when we are like pushing faster and faster and faster, when we rush to finish, we've compromised excellence. And the skill we attain is not one of excellence, but one of mediocrity. And maybe this year, you have just accepted this year as a mediocre year. You've come to the reality, you know what, this year is not what I expected. And I have determined, because I just want to get it over with, mediocrity is just okay as long as it gets me out of this year. Excellence is compromised at the feet of mediocrity. And when we're facing a new year, I fully believe that God is going to bless you in 2021 based upon how you choose to finish 2020. And we forget so much on the finish line. We forget what it takes to get there, and it's going to take time. And you have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to finish this year well and start 2021 strong, right? You know what I'm talking about? You can start strong, but we need to go back to that passage in Colossians, and it says if we are to do everything as unto the Lord, then excellence is never going to be compromised. And so if we're not going to compromise excellence, we can't rush to get to the end of the year. The magnitude of the task doesn't dictate the level of excellence that I'm striving for, right? Just because I believe the thing I'm being asked to do. My mom asked me to make my bed. My boss asked me, I need to work just a little bit more. I need to put some more attention to detail in a specific project. And we sit back and we go, ooh, you know what? I think I've done more than enough. But we get that way when we have realized and we have compromised our excellence due to mediocrity. And one of the fastest ways we get there is when we forget why we're doing what we're doing. We lose the importance of the task because we think the task in itself is what we're working for, or we think the paycheck that we're receiving is what we're working for. If I can just get to the end of the year, that's what I'm striving for. Everything is important. Every little task is important when I know I'm doing it as working for the Lord. Now, why do we rush? Why do we hurry? My feelings and my thoughts on this, and I'll be honest with you, I'm one that tends to want to push the ball down the court faster. And I remember sitting with a leader here in our community just a few years ago, being a young man, wanting to really push myself. And this lady in our community looked at me and she said, you need to remember that it's important to look back and see how far you've come. Because when we rush and we try to push the ball down the court even faster, we tend to be so focused ahead of us that we forget to see how far God has brought us. So my feelings and thoughts as to why we rush and why we hurry is we lack the intentionality behind our actions that lead us to worthwhile accomplishment. We lack the intentionality, which means we lack the focus. We lack the know-how. We have no idea why we do what we do. And maybe that's you. You're finishing out the year and you have no idea. You work a job and you have no idea why you work there. It's not a passion of yours. You could care less about it. You don't get along with anybody who you work with. You're just working a job because at the end of the day, you just need to pay bills. So I'm going to do whatever I have to take. And I'm going to tell you, there will be seasons of your life where you are going to do jobs that you don't like just because you need to survive. But you have to remember in those moments not to lose focus behind your actions. You're not just working a job to pay bills. You're working a job to do it excellently as if you were doing it for the Lord. Now maybe we've become selfish and have fallen for what I call the American lie that more money will lead us to happiness. So we work more hours, trying to climb that corporate ladder to a life that we really think we want. We perceive someone else's peace as what will be peaceful for us. We don't work hard for more money. That's not what followers of Jesus do. We don't work hard because our boss asks us to do it. And we're not even working hard for our employees to make sure that they have a job to come back to. We work hard, and this is what Paul's saying, we work hard, we work with excellence because we're doing it for the Lord. Everything we do it as if Jesus were right there with us. Have you ever thought about that? So now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How can we finish this year well and start 2021 strong? Starting 2021 in the best possible position. I'm going to give you some things that I've been putting into practice in my own life. Slow down. Slow down. I had a conversation just this past week with somebody in our church, and the first thing I said to them is, you need to breathe. Take some time to breathe. Aiden has started this past week and has been wanted to come and work out with Brooke and I, and so he was lifting for one of the first times, and I kept telling him as he was lifting and he was struggling, and the natural tendency is not to breathe. Do you realize how refreshing it is when you just pause for a moment and just breathe? If I'm always running to the next moment, friends, you're never going to enjoy the moment I'm in. I'm not even going to know how to enjoy it. I don't know how to do it. I need to enjoy life. But if I don't slow down, I'm never going to enjoy life. Real friends, Jesus is alive, which means hope is alive. I can enjoy life, even the tough parts. If anything I can find peace in is I don't feel, I don't believe the world is ending. And if it does, friends, we're in a better place. And that's in the presence of our Creator who loves us, who right now has bigger dreams for you than you even have for yourself, bigger plans and more love for you than you can even imagine. Enjoy the ride. You only get this life once. Live it to the fullest with Jesus Christ as your captain. Enjoy the ride. Take time to reflect. You may not be where you want to be, but I promise you, if you're following Jesus, you're a lot closer than you were several months or years ago. Take time to reflect. Look back and go, you know what? I know I want to be here, but I'm glad I'm not back there. We'll never know how far we've come until we reflect on where we started. This year started out, as a normal year. I remember getting to spring break, and it's a normal thing for our family. My dad and my sons and I have been going to the Big 12 tournament for the last several years, and we were sitting at the Sprint Center, now the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, and when everything COVID just shut the world down. It started out normal. We didn't know anything was different. We walked into the stadium, went into the game, everything was normal. We were sitting in our seats, and then we came out, and it was just like a scene off a movie called Pandemic, if you've ever seen that movie, and everybody was in hazmat suits, and it was incredible. But if we don't reflect on how we started, we're going to get fixated on this small window of time, and we're going to frame our opinions and our thoughts based upon that. Reflection, friends, is a good thing. Where we go wrong is when we habitate in that reflection and become people who think our best years are behind us. Reflection is good. Habitation in that reflection is where we go wrong. We cannot live in the past. We have to keep moving forward. Celebrate often. If I don't reflect, I'm never going to celebrate. Celebration, we just spent 3 weeks talking about the best way to approach Christmas in 2020 is to be grateful for what we have rather than fixating our eyes on what we want or what we don't have. Celebration will lead you to gratefulness. Be a person who is grateful. Be a person who is grateful. Fixate your eyes, focus your attention on what you've been blessed with rather than pursuing what you don't have. Fixating your eyes on where you're at and being grateful for the moment that you're in, even the tough moments. Because if I'm doing it as unto the Lord, those tough moments, I'm going to understand that there is value in them. And as you fixate your attention on 2021, be intentional about why you're doing what you're doing. Intentionally take time over these next couple of days to prepare and plan for 2021. What dreams does God have for me next year? What goals do I really want for myself, for my business, my job? Don't get to where, when you get to December of 2021, don't get there by accident. Get there on purpose. That you can look back and you can go, man, this is awesome. I remember getting out of December of 2019 and we told our team we want to intentionally in the Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2020, we want to be able to provide meals for a family for Thanksgiving and a meal for Christmas. And just this week we delivered a meal to a family in our community who needed food, wanted to be able to serve, didn't have the resources to make a Christmas dinner for her and her family. And it was awesome. Brooke and I went and took groceries and we were able to do that. And that's a huge win. And you may be like, well, it's only one. No, that's a complete growth step from where we were last year. But we intentionally said in 2020, we believe our church is supposed to do this. We're arriving at where we are as a church on purpose. I want to bring you back to Aiden's last meet. Came out of the gate strong. He led for almost half the race. I was proud. My mom and dad were even able to come over and watch the race. And I could see, we're not runners. And to see him come out of the gates and just go after it. And when we were all just grinning ear to ear. And it was like, inside. I remember my dad used to tell me stories about when I was his firstborn son, and he would carry me through the hospital and just grinning that this is my son. And I felt that way. that my son was leading this race. And it wasn't that he was leading that made me proud. It was his work ethic that made me proud. He was leading a race after just a few weeks making the decision, I'm just going to start doing this. Then about halfway through the race, you could just see it in his eyes. Just you see it. He'd come out of the gates just a little too quick. His endurance was fading and his energy tank, truthfully, was depleted. It was the toughest course they ran all year. He was ready for the race to be over. Ran most of the race going uphill. And no, not without shoes in 3 foot of snow. It's not one of those uphill times. He ran 3 races this year and finished top 10 in all of them. His last race, he finished in 7th place. I couldn't have been more proud. And I remember I was waiting and I was talking with his coach, who also coached him in basketball last season. And his coach was just sharing with me how proud of Aiden he was. And I remember Aiden walking up and you could just see it. He was physically and emotionally exhausted. He was ready to get something to drink, and I just want to sit down. He was spent. He had done so well, but he was ready for it to be over. And maybe that's you today. Right now, you're just ready. I just want this year over with. Friends, your best days are in front of you. 2020 may have been difficult, but today is a new day. 2021 is almost here. And how I know how you can really fixate your attention to where 2021 is going to be the best year of your life. I read a recent study that showed there's only one demographic in our country that has seen an increase in their mental health this year. Only one demographic. Now you think about the demographics across our country, only one of them saw an increase in their mental health, and that are the people that attend church weekly. So as you're fixating your intentionality on 2021, you want to know how to make it the best year, you need to intentionally be present at church so you can be intentionally present with Jesus. Every other demographic saw decreases in their mental health this year. And as we end this year and start 2021, let's make 2021 a year of miracles in our lives, in our families, and in our church. And it starts with us. Commit to these simple actions. Turn them into habits. Reflect on the blessings we do have. Finishing well and starting strong requires the same thing, right? They do. They require the absolute same thing. To finish well and to start strong, you can't rush to the finish. You need to have a plan of intention. I'm going to get somewhere on purpose. I'm going to commit to that plan. I'm going to commit to the plan God's called me to. I'm going to commit to the church God's placed me in. So I am truly, ultimately, 100% committed to Jesus. And then 2021 will be a year of miracles in your life, in your family's life, in our church's life, because God wants to do miracles in all of us this year. We sat before you January of 2020 and said, well, this is a year we as a church we're going to fixate our attention on making a difference. And friends, we did that. And it's just starting. But I believe God, as we are finishing out this year, preparing for next year, it's going to be a year of miracles for our church and our families. Commit to that. Finish this year well and be ready and planned and intentional about starting next year as strong as possible. And that means you do everything you do next year with Jesus right beside you. Today, God, we are so thankful for what you've done in our church this year. God, it has been a year of unknowns. And God, I am so grateful as a pastor to know that the church I am called to shepherd, the church you've tasked me with, the calling in my heart, that we are stronger today maybe than we ever have been. That we are moving forward, we are running full steam ahead. You have opened up doors during this time, Lord, that we never could have imagined. And God, I'm grateful your hand of favor, your smiling face is shining down on us. God, as I finish this year, as we as a church finish this year, help us not rush to the end. Help us find peace and contentment and gratefulness that we can look forward to 2021 believing and praying for miracles in our finances, in our homes, in our kids' lives, in our parents' lives, in our work life, in our bosses' lives, in our employees' lives. We can believe for extraordinary favor to come forward. That God, every task is important. And everything we do, we're going to find ourselves doing it for you, which means we do it with excellence. Help us finish this year well. Challenge us. God, as maybe our mentalities have just been a little off, convict us so that we can start 2021 with your hand of favor, your hand of blessing on our hearts, on our lives, on our homes, and in our church. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.